Hi, I'm U.S. Senator Marco Rubio, and this is this week's edition of Constituent Mailbox. We actually have an addition to this week because we have some more emails that we wanted to read on the air. Emails and letters that we're getting from all across the state. This one is about a proposal that I've been working on. It's an alternative to the so-called DREAM Act. The DREAM Act, as you know, is designed to help young people who came to this country at a very young age, are undocumented, usually because they overstayed a visa through no fault of their own, and now find that they're out of status even though they've grown up in this country and gone to our schools. Up to now, the only solution to their problems has been the DREAM Act. But I can't support the DREAM Act. It's too broad and it would encourage illegal immigration in the future, and I'm not going to support a blanket amnesty bill. But I do think we have to accommodate these kids, and I was very consistent when I said that throughout my campaign, that while I couldn't support the DREAM Act, I did support figuring out a way to help these kids be able to deal with the predicament that they're in. So we've come up with a sort of alternative, and now we're starting to get some emails about it, so I wanted to read a few of them on the air and then respond. The first is from Michael in Sebring. He writes that he was a huge supporter of mine until he read about my proposal to grant a sort of amnesty to the youth of illegal aliens in the United States. I'm sorry, sir, but they are illegal and they need to go home with their illegal parents. Roy from Bartow writes, it is my understanding that you do not support the DREAM Act. If an individual comes to this country and serves in our military and/or gets a 4-year college degree by paying their way and working hard, I would totally support that individual as being in line for being an American citizen. Email number 3 from Luann in Coral Gables writes that the original DREAM Act was designed to allow undocumented youth who were brought here as children a path to citizenship, provided either they served in the military or attended college. It seems to me that this is very good. Many of these young came here so young that they did not know that they were not Americans until time came to get their driver's license. A fourth email from Jim in Apollo Beach says he just read a news article where Senator Reid said that he was opposed to my recommendations regarding our illegal alien issue. I would like to offer my 2 cents on this subject. I believe that we need what you are offering, that it is common sense and that it is something that is missing in Congress. So some mixed opinions. Some folks supporting the initial DREAM Act, some folks supporting the general concept, some folks supporting my idea, and some folks flat out believing that we shouldn't do anything at all. So let me tell you where my idea comes from. It's pretty, actually, a real-life story that I recently encountered. It was the story of a girl that entered this country when she was 4 years old. Legally, her mother brought her here on a tourist visa. Her mother, unfortunately, overstayed the tourist visa. This girl has grown up her entire life in this country. She's now undocumented, but she is the valedictorian of her high school with a I think a 6-point-something GPA. She's been accepted to Dartmouth to study molecular biology, but she has a deportation order. And it just doesn't feel right. It feels strange to deport a valedictorian of a high school who's grown up in this country almost her entire life. So how do we accommodate her? How do we help her out, but do so in a way that doesn't encourage or reward illegal immigration? And the concept we've come up with is to use the existing legal immigration system to try to address it. What we would do is we would give her a non-immigrant visa, which basically is what we give like a student visa. It would allow her to get a driver's license, and it would allow her to go to school here and be here legally. It would allow her to pay taxes as well. Now, it doesn't necessarily turn into citizenship on its own or residency, but it allows you to be here while you go to school and study. You wouldn't get in-state tuition, you wouldn't get any sort of federal financial aid or welfare benefits, and you'd have to qualify by having lived in this country for a certain period of time consecutively, not have any, felony violations or things of that nature. You'd have to have graduated from high school. There's all sort of requirements in order for you to meet it. But the bottom line is you have a non-immigrant visa, like a student visa, that would allow you to stay here and study, and you can ultimately turn that into a work visa after you graduate. It's a non-immigrant visa. Those exist right now. We would give it to these kids in recognition of the fact that they're victims, that they are in a situation not of their own doing. At some point in the future, if those kids decide they want to stay here permanently, and I suspect most of them will, at some point in the future, those kids will be able to do so, but not through a special path, not through an amnesty path. They would be able to do so, but they would have to use the existing legal immigration system. That means if they want to get a green card in the future, they'd have to get one of the existing visas, like being claimed by a family member, being claimed by an employer, or getting married to a U.S. citizen. Those are the existing pathways. The difference between my idea and the DREAM Act is the DREAM Act would create a fourth category, a special pathway. We don't create a special pathway. And so this doesn't give them any additional benefits. It only gives them whatever is available to virtually anyone else in the world who would like to legally immigrate to the United States. And because each of these are capped on an annual basis, there's a waiting list, and they would be, anybody who got there before them would be ahead of them on the waiting list. That's the concept we're working on. We think it's common sense. Now look, these kids don't have a legal right to be in the United States. Their claim is not one on our laws, it's one on our conscience. It's a claim of humanitarianism. The truth is that America has always been a humanitarian and compassionate country when it comes to the plight of refugees, for example. People who don't have a legal right to be in the United States, but we let them come and stay because through no fault of their own, they find themselves in a very difficult predicament that has turned them into victims. The same is true with these kids who entered at a very young age and through no fault of their own have lived here their whole life in an undocumented status. All we're going to try to do is give some of them, the ones that qualify, the opportunity to get right what their parents got wrong. And it's certainly better than the DREAM Act because it doesn't create an amnesty special pathway, but it does help accommodate these high-achieving kids who have grown up here their whole lives and have a lot to contribute to our future. We hope it can be a bipartisan solution. We hope it can emerge above politics. We'll see if that is possible. We're hoping that it is. I hope that answers many of your questions. Well, I want to thank all of you for tuning in, for writing us and emailing us. We encourage you to continue to do that because we read those. And you never know. Maybe next week it'll be your email or letter that we read on the air. I want to once again thank you for the privilege of serving you here in the United States Senate. May God bless all of you. May God bless the state of Florida. And may God always bless the United States of America.